Hey there, my name is Rafat Huda, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a prank website which you can use to prank your friends. So several years ago, there was someone that came up with this idea of rickrolling someone. And it's really, really simple. You will send a link to someone that would be about something important, but when the person would click on that link, a YouTube video would start playing. And that YouTube video was of this song by Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. I'm gonna play it now. And I've muted the song because, I don't want to get into trouble because of copyright. But yeah, this is what rickrolling is. So we're gonna be building a website which will look like this. And when you click the button where it says don't click it, when you click it, there's gonna be this GIF, animated GIF of Rick Astley dancing and the Rickroll song. Now I've chosen a different song because again I don't want to get into trouble because of copyright, but you can basically turn this into whatever you want. So let me mute that so you don't get super annoyed. So with that, I hope you are ready to get started. Just a little note. This project is going to be using Figma, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it would be best if you've worked with those things a little bit before so you have some basic knowledge, because this is a project series where I am more focusing on how to build a project from start to finish from scratch. So I won't be going into, this is like not a beginner's tutorial for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So if you're completely new to those things, I would recommend first checking out my introductory videos of those technologies. All right, with that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, let's get started building this thing. So, as always, the first thing I want to do is just sketch out my idea so that I have something to work off of when I start coding this thing. So for that, I'm of course going to be using Figma. So let's open up a new browser window and go to Figma. If you haven't used Figma before, check out my video on Figma. It's a fairly simple piece of software to really use for a whole bunch of different things. But what I use it for is when I'm thinking about ideas and when I'm making prototypes, before I start coding, I usually sketch out everything in Figma. So it's completely free to use, and I'm already logged into my account here. I'm going to open up a new project, start with a blank canvas. Let me see, let me zoom in a little bit for you so it's easier for you to see. See if we can zoom in a little bit. There we go. All right, so I'm going to be calling this my prank website. And let's start off with a frame. And let's see here. So the way that I'm thinking about it is that you can go many different ways here, and you can go really, really elaborate in building this website that really looks very close to a different website that people know about, and then trick them into pressing a button. But because I want to keep this window fairly simple, this video fairly simple, I'm just gonna go the simple route here. But feel free to make it a lot more elaborate. So I'm just gonna say don't click the button as the heading to this. Let me just move myself over here so you can see what I'm doing on the right side. Increase the font size on this. I mean, that's a little bit too much. Let's keep it to 60 perhaps. So let's just bold this, and then I'm gonna give them a button not to click. And of course, the whole idea here is that when people are told not to do something, they usually can't help themselves but do that thing. So let's bring it to the front. Don't click like this. And of course, we can very well change these things later on. All I want to do here is kind of get a sense of what am I going to be turning into HTML and CSS code. So let's just give a little bit of border radius on this. And then, I also want to give a little stroke, like a solid stroke on this thing. Okay, looking quite fine. Now, when they do click on this, what is it that's going to happen? Well, when they click on this, of course, the sound is going to start playing. And I also want a GIF animation to start playing as the background. So let's see how we can do that. So let me just go to Google and find a GIF animation. Rickroll GIF. So let's see if we can find something that's a good one. This one looks pretty good. So let's actually copy image address and paste it here. Just want to paste this thing so later on when I want to download that GIF and put it into my project, I can easily find where it's located. But for now, let me just copy this and put it here. So let me just get rid of everything and put it like right here. And of course, it's going to get repeated like this. I can just repeat it. And then let's just do a repetition here as well. And there we go, something like this. So button click, and then it shows this, and of course the sound starts playing. So it's looking pretty straightforward now. So I'm gonna head on over to Repl.it to start coding this thing. You can very well use your own code editor of your choice to do it, but I really like to use Repl.it when I'm making these videos. So I'm gonna go to Repl.it, and Repl.it is completely free to use. It's, in my opinion, the easiest and best way to code in the browser, and especially if you're a beginner, it just makes the whole process much simpler. So if you've never heard about it before, never done it before, and you're fairly new to coding, check out my video where I show you how to use Repl.it. But once you have an account, you can just go ahead and create a new HTML, CSS, JavaScript template. And here, let me call it prank website. There we go. I'm going to move myself back to the right side. There we are. Okay, so let me just set this thing up. So I want to open this preview window in a new tab. And I'm not going to be using the shell or the console, so I'm going to just get rid of that. And I think on the left side, we're pretty good. Yeah, so I can also just hide this for now. So we're going to be just starting off with a boilerplate HTML code. So if you're using your own code editor, just copy the code that we have from here. And of course, if you're using Repl.it, it just saves you that time and just gives you that to begin with. So let's see now. So let me change the title to "Don't Click the Button." And in here, I'm gonna add an h1 tag. And what did I put in my Figma sketch? Let me just copy this thing and put it in here. There we go. And then, of course, we have a button. So let's use a button tag for that. And then in here, we wanted to put "don't click" like that. Okay, let's see how this looks now. Refresh this thing. Okay. So what I want to do now is center this H1 and also center this button. So let me take a look here. So let me actually okay, let me start like this. So I'm gonna do it the easier way first. So you'll see me kind of changing the code as we go, because a lot of times when you want to get started with something, you use the more kind of quick and dirty type of coding, and then you just fix it up a little bit later on. So let me do one of those things now. So I'm just gonna use a plain old center tag to center everything for now, so I don't gotta worry about that thing just yet. There you go, that centers that. Okay, so now let's look at how we can spend some time on the CSS and style this thing, this button, so it looks more like this. And I also want to give it a hover effect. So let's see here. Let me go into CSS. And so in here, I want to do button. So of course I can just go for the button tag like this because there's only one button on the page. So it's going to do that, but it's not the best way to do it like this. So I'm going to give a unique ID to that button and then target it using that. So let's go in here and add this title to it, ID, sorry, of button. And then of course, when we're using IDs, we're going to use the hashtag symbol. And then in here, let me just check this thing. Oops. There we go. So now we want to do background color. Let's see. Okay, I already got a little autocomplete here. Maybe I can just go with something here. Let me try beige. And then we want to give it some padding. So let's do 30 pixels of padding. And then font size, we gotta put it up maybe to 35 pixels. Let's try that. And what else do we want here? Let's see how that looks. Okay, it's looking fine. We also want to give it some. So now it's got the same amount of padding on all four sides. That's what this does, right? This thing just repeats the same padding to all four sides. Now I'm going to give it different paddings depending on different padding to the top and bottom and different padding to the left and right. So for that, you can just add another number. So the second number will be for the left and right. So I want to have more padding on those sides. Yeah, that's looking better. I maybe even want to go up to 60 on this thing. There we go. Okay, so one more thing I want to do is, actually, I don't think beige looks that great. So I'm going to see if we have another color we can go for. Maybe this one. And then let's do border radius. And I like to give 10 for that. There we go. And then we want to give it some border. So I want to give it like a strong stroke like we have here. So let's see how we can do that. So for that, we want to use border. And then here, I can never remember the three things that I want to put in here. So let me just Google that because I can't remember the syntax. So border CSS, let me see if we can find that here. CSS border property. There we go, that's the one. So first is the thickness of the border. Put it here. Thickness of the border, and then if you want it solid or what type of kind of pattern that you want on the border, you got some different alternatives. And then of course the color. So this one I'm just going to change to black. There we go. Okay, looking pretty good. And one thing I want to add to this too is that when you hover over the button, I want to give it some other color, just so it's clear for the user that they're actually hovering over and about to click the button. And so for that, of course, we want to do button and then the hover state. And here we want to do background color. Let's change that to, what do we want to do here? Aquamarine. Let's try that. And what else do I want to do? I also want the cursor to become a pointer. So you got this nice hand icon. So let's see if we can do that. There we go. Looking pretty good. So I'd say that we're done with the HTML and CSS for now. We can always change that a little bit later, but I think it's looking fine for now. So now let's see how we can add some JavaScript to this thing so that it can, do the most interesting part. So let me think about it for a little while. So what we want on our prank website is when you click a button, and when you click something, in my case it's a button, then we want some music to play, the Rickroll Never Gonna Give You Up song. And then we want the the background to become a dancing Rick Astley, right? So there are two aspects to this thing, two things that need to be run when something is clicked. All right. So how do I think about this now? So let me go in smaller steps. That always helps me. So first thing I want to do is make sure that when I click the button, I can change the background to something else. And then we'll change it to a GIF. And then we can take care of the sound. So let's go that way. So let's go in here, and I want to go into HTML again. And of course, the easiest way to run some JavaScript when you click a button or when you click something is just to add this on click here. So let's say that in here we say, let's run a function that we can write. So let's do change background. And then, of course, this is not going to do anything because we don't have that function written. So let's go to our JavaScript file, script.js. And then let's write that function. So we got function change background. And then in here, how is it that I can change that? Well, I need to be able to change, if I want to change the background color, I need to target the style of the body, right? So let's think about this. So let's go into this thing again, and I always like to use developer tools to help me out with this. Let me open up, if you're using Google Chrome, you can just do inspect element. And let me put it perhaps on the right side. Yeah, that should be good. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Easier for you to see. There we go. All right, so here, put myself a little bit more to the right. Okay, so let's open up the console. And of course, the console is a place where you can run some commands and you can do some testing. And there's, it's really, really helpful when you're developing a website. So let me write document. So the whole website is a big document object. So you'll see that the whole website lights up when you write document. And that's literally going to give you back everything that you have, everything that goes into the document, the H1, the button, and everything like that. Now, if you go in here and you say document.body, it's going to, of course, give you only the body. And then if you go into style there, it's going to give you all the styles or all the things that you can apply, like all the CSS kind of things for the body. And then in there, you can see that you got a whole bunch of different things here, a long list of things that you can change. I want to go up to background. Let's see, let's go to background. So we got background image. Muted my mic there for a second. Background image, that's what we want to do. But for now, let's just do background color. And so when you return that, it's just going to give you an empty string, just nothing in here. It's because it's the default value right now, which is just white. But if you are still in the console and you press the up arrow, it's going to give you back the thing that you just wrote. And you say equal, and then you say some other color like red. It's going to change the background color of the website. So that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to just copy this command and put it into my function. And so now let me run this thing again, refresh this thing, and then press click. And then of course, now the background color changes. Now, I don't want the background color to change. I want the background image to change to Dancing Rick Astley's. So this is fairly simple now because we already found out that one of the other things we can do is change the background image. So let me now go back to my Figma sketch. And remember here we saved that GIF. We can now open up a new tab and go to that GIF. And then what I want to do now is I want to save this GIF on my machine. So save image as, and then I want to upload it to my project. If you're just coding on your just machine, you can just literally just download this thing and then move it into your folder. So let me just save image as, and I'll just put it on my desktop here. Rick, replace what I have because I already did this before, right? So let me show in Finder, and I'm gonna go here, and on the left side, this is one of the things I love about repl.it is that you can literally just drag and drop this thing right in here, and it's gonna upload. So now we got Rick Astley dancing right here. Perfect. So let me now go to the JavaScript, and let's now do background image instead. And let's do rick.gif. Now this might not work because I might not have the exact syntax for this. Let's see. Refresh. Let's try it anyway. Clicking, it doesn't work, right? Because we need to we need something else. So in here, it turns out it needs something extra than this. So I don't remember what that is. Let me Google it. So let's see. So change background image using JavaScript. Let's see here. Okay, W3 Schools. That's always a good resource. Okay, there you go. So it says that you want to use URL, and then in this you want to write it like this. Okay. Let's copy that, put it in here, and then inside let's just go in here and do rick.gif. Let's try it out now. Refresh this thing, and there you have it. There we go. Very nice. So we do have the dancing Ricks. Now we do want to do one more thing, which is I don't want to show the button and the heading. I want to hide those things when you've clicked the button. Let's do that before we add the sound. So in order for us to be able to do that, we need to have a way of referring to the button and the heading in one go, because it's going to make it easier, right? Because otherwise we would have to do it separately. And then we should just say, like, hide that thing. So let's go back to the HTML. Now I'm going to go inside, and I am actually going to let me actually go inside of the center tag. And in here, let's create a div that we can wrap around our button and our heading. And let's give this a class of, everything. Not a great class name, but because our website is pretty simple, it's totally fine. So let's give it a class of everything, and then we want to say that when you click the button, hide the everything div. So let's see if this still works. Of course, this still works. And the way that you can hide something using CSS is if you go in here and you say style and you say display none, like this, and you refresh, now it removes it. So all we got to do is we got to go into that display setting, you can say, and you can just kind of toggle it on or off. That's how you can show and hide things on your website. So let me remove this, and then let's go back to the change background function. Okay, let me add some comments so that, because as we're gonna go on, we're gonna have some lines of code doing things, and it's always good to have some comments so you kind of know what you're doing, especially when you come back to the code. So let's say change background to dancing Rick. And then let's, after that, do hide the heading and the button. Okay, so we got to go into document again. And then we got to think, okay, so how do we get the everything div? Now remember, our everything div is a class that's called everything. So we can't use get element by ID, which is something that you might have seen before, but we can use something different, which is a more general version of get element by ID, which is called query selector. And in here, you can just give quotation marks, and you can say hashtag for IDs, and you can say dot for classes, the same way that it's in CSS. And if I go in here and say dot and I say everything, now I should be able to get, everything that's in the everything div. So in there, then I can say style, and then I can say display, and then I can change that to be none. Let's see if this works. Now I did write quite a bit of code now without testing, so I'm excited to see if it is actually working or not. Refresh, click, and there you have it. It works. It removed or hid the buttons and the heading. So we're almost done with this thing. The only thing that we need is the sound file. Now, this is where I'm going to have to be a little bit careful, because of course you're watching this on YouTube, and because of the copyright laws and everything like that, I'm not going to be able to play the sound of Never Gonna Give You Up. So I'm going to take a little break here, and I'm going to find a file that I can use, a sound file. Now, if you're making the same thing, you know how to do that. You can find this on the internet, just Google it, or use some sort of converter so you can convert a video into a sound file. And if you're using something else, just use whatever it is that you want to use. Point is that we're going to be using a sound file. So let's take a little break, and then I'll come back with the sound file. And then I'll also have another sound file that I'll use for testing purposes that's going to be fine with the copyright, just so I can show you that the sound is actually working without getting into trouble with YouTube. So let's take a little break. I'll come back. And we are back. So I've just found a song that I can use without getting into trouble because of copyright. It's made by Bulby, and it's like a remix from the Undertale game, Megalovania. And so on this video, he actually includes a link to the MP3, which I can just download. But I want to actually show you a different way of using any YouTube video that has some sort of sound that you want, and you can convert it to a sound file. So I'm going to copy this URL. Let me actually get rid of all the extra stuff that I have here and only do let's see, this one. Yep, it still plays that. So now I'm gonna copy this and then go to a website called ytmp3.cc that lets you convert YouTube videos into MP3 files. Put it in here. Let's convert that. Download. Got that downloaded. And let me open that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change the whole file name to something simple. So I'll just say song.mp3. And of course, I'll go into my REPL and move over this song right here. And of course, I got the original Rickroll song here as well. So let me now get rid of this. Okay, so now we want to play also a song when the button is pressed. So again, I don't remember exactly how to do this. I don't remember everything, and neither are you supposed to remember everything. That's why we got the internet, right? That's why we got the web, where we can search for anything. So let's just do a Google search and look up the code that we need to make a sound or music play using JavaScript. So play sound using JavaScript. Let's Google that. And so again, there are many resources on the internet You got Stack Overflow, you got W3 Schools, you got a whole bunch of different things. As you do more of these searches, you'll find that some are better than others. Generally, I think W3 Schools is an excellent resource for if you're learning anything related to web development. So I'm going to go into that one. Let's see what we have here. So it says an audio player with play and pause buttons. Okay, I don't necessarily want that. I want an audio player and all that, but I do want to play the sound. So here it looks like that we're targeting an audio player using this thing, and then we're just saying play or pause the sound. Okay, so then I need to be able to actually put some audio in the website, on the website. So let's see, audio HTML. Let's search for that. Let's see, HTML audio. To play an audio file in HTML, use the audio element. Okay, so we got a little audio tag that we can use. So let me just copy this and put it in and see if we can mess with it to make it do what we want to do. Oops. Let's see. Go a little bit on the left, and let's go to HTML. And let's go back in. So let's put the sound underneath the button. And it looks like it has two different here. I don't need both of them. I only need the MP3 version. So I'm going to get rid of the first one. And I'm going to just make this be song.mp3. And then, of course, there's a little bit of text here that I'm assuming shows up if for some reason the browser is really old and it doesn't support audio to be played. But it probably is not going to be a problem if you have, unless you have like a really, really old computer or browser. Let's see. So let's refresh this. Okay, so we got this audio player. Now let's try to play it. And the sound is playing. Okay, so let's see if we can make this thing play when we click the button first. And then we'll see how we can hide this sound player. So we only hear the sound and we don't need to see the player. So let's go back to the JavaScript. And let's go here and write a new comment. Let's say play song. And how do we want to do this? We wanted to first target the audio, right? What did it say here? Yeah, target the audio. So let's say, let's give it an ID so we can target it. Let's say, where do we want to put it here? So let's go back here and let's do ID, and then we'll say song. And so let's go back here. And then we'll say document, get element by ID. And then we'll say song. And then we want to play it, right, when we press the button. So this now should play the song. Let's see. Refresh. It works. So now we're really, really close. Refresh this. And so all we got to do now is make sure we can hide this audio player. So let's do a search for that as well. Let's see if we can even see it here. If it says anything. I don't think it says that. So how to hide audio player in HTML. Let's see. Autoplay and source. No, not that. Playing sound and hidden tag. Okay, here we go. Someone is saying hidden. You can just add hidden to the tag. So let's try that. Let's say, go back here and we'll say After controls, we'll say hidden. See if that works. Refresh, and there we have it. The player went away. So now let's try one final time. And there we have it. It's done. The website is working. Let me turn this off and go back. Okay, so at this point, the website is working. And of course, I was using the song that I could use, but what I really wanted to do is just change it to the Rickroll music. And of course, that's very, very easy to do. All we need to do is just change this. So, but I still don't want to end the video at this point because there's some things here that I really want to clean up before I say that this project is done, code-wise. So let's see if we can do that one by one. So the first thing that is bugging me is that I have this on-click thing right here in the button tag. And technically, inside of here, I've written some JavaScript, which is totally fine. It works. And another thing as well is that I have a function name that really just doesn't make sense. Change background. I'm not changing the background. Oh, I'm doing a whole lot of other things too. So I want to change that too. But this way of writing JavaScript is really very similar to using a style way of writing CSS, inline CSS. We already know that we don't want to do that, right? It's just doesn't look very good. And it's good to keep the CSS, HTML, and JavaScript completely separated. So that's what I want to do with the JavaScript as well. So let me see how I can do that. So what I want to do is I want to take this thing away and still make it work. So let me just take this away. And of course, now if I run my website, which I need to now zoom out, run it once more and open it up in a new tab one more time. And then of course, let me just zoom in again. There we go. So let's see now, refresh. And of course, if I click, nothing is going to happen. Now, what I want to do is let's go into the JavaScript file and let's try something else. So let me show you something. So if you wanted to do the same thing that we were doing before, but in JavaScript, then you can do this. You can say document, and then you can say something like get element by ID again, get element by ID, and then target the button. So now you got the button, right? Now, what is it that you want to do to the button? This is where you can use something called add event listener. So this is gonna go off when something is done to this button. For example, when that button is clicked, that is an event. So the way this add event listener method works is that you first give it the event that you want it to actually do something on, and then afterwards you give it some code to run when that event happens. That might sound a little bit complicated. It's really not. Let me show you how it works. Let's do brackets. The first thing we'll do is say in quotation mark click, because we want this code to go off when the button is clicked. And then in here is where we can write a function. Now, if you've never seen this before, this might look a little bit complicated, but bear with me. All I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function in here where I can write some code that can be executed. But this function is going to be a special function that has no name. So let's do it. Function, and then I'll write brackets because it is a function that can take arguments, right? In our case, we're not taking any arguments, but it could. And then after that, you want to do the quotation marks. Not the quotation marks, what am I talking about? The curly brackets is what I meant. Curly brackets after that, and then press enter. So now we have a function that has no name, and then now you can write all the code in here. So for this, I can literally just copy the stuff that I've already written here. Copy that. and then put it right in here. Let's see if it works now. Let's go back to the website, refresh, and it works perfectly. Great. So let me refresh this so we don't have to hear that music. So now we can just get rid of this entire thing. Now, is there anything else here that I want to clean up? Let me check. So I got the background image to be this, and then we got the everything in here, and then we got the song and play. This is actually totally fine. Now, if you're making a website that is a lot more elaborate than this, then, and if you're doing like several things in here, we're already doing like 3 different things in this thing, but this is kind of a special function, right? This is like a main function that has all of the functions or all of the functionality inside of one function. So it's fine to do it this way. But let me just show you something that is used a lot, because you might realize here that when you look up help on, like, say, W3 schools, you'll see that they first create a variable that gets you that object you're after, and then after that you can just use that variable name instead of just doing document get element by ID, which again is totally fine if you're doing it really simply like I am here. If you're just using it once, it just keeps the code cleaner. But let me show you how you could do it. So we could do var and then song. We can equal this to this part. And then instead of this entire thing, we could just do song here. So let's see if that works. Refresh. And of course, that also works. So it's, just a little kind of programming thing. Really handy to know that if your code is starting to get bigger than mine. All right, so let me go to the index file again. And let's see if there's anything else that we can clean up here. Again, the center tag is not really something that I like to use, because it's some old technology that was used very much before, but now you really don't want to do it this way. So let me get rid of the center tag, and let's try to just center everything without it. So let me get rid of the center tag. And let's see what we get now. So now, of course, it's going to go to the left. And what we can do here is we can say, let me see here. So what we can do here is let's try to go. Let's get rid of this. Let's indent this properly, and then let's go to the H1, and then let's just give it a title of an ID of title, and then we got the everything. So let's go to CSS. So now let's do title. And of course, for this, it's text align. That always works. When it's just text, you can just do text align center. That should center the text. There we have it. Now let's see if we can center this button. So let me go here and do everything. So let's try margin 0 auto. Let's see if that works. That didn't work. This is kind of the other way of centering things when you don't have text, but it doesn't always work. It didn't do it in this case. So let's see if we can, how we can make this thing work. So centering is actually something that a lot of people forget all the time when it comes to it, because it can be actually a little bit complicated. So now I'm going to use Google again so I can remind myself how I can center this thing. So how to center div in CSS. Let's see, W3 schools. All right, so of course, this is text which is centered, which we already have. And then it says here centering images. We don't have images. Then it's using float. Go a little bit more down. Okay, Flexbox. Now this is something that is some newer technology that makes the business of centering things easier, but it really is a whole is used for a lot more sophisticated things as well in addition to that. But this is something that I want to try out. So let me just take this center CSS code and just copy everything inside of here. Let's go in here, and then I have all of the stuff in my div, right, called everything. So I'm just gonna paste it in here. And it has a height and a border, which I don't want. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And so here's what I'm thinking. I might not exactly know how all of this thing works, but it's making sense to me because it says center here. So this is still something that I can try out. Let me refresh that. And then of course it centers it like this. So that's not something that I want, of course. So let me go to this. Now let's do this. So let's actually try to do, let's take this out of everything and put it, actually, you know what? Let's just keep it in here because I have called it everything. So I do want to put it in here, but let's try. So what is the problem here? The problem here is that Flexbox, of course, takes everything and it just puts it right next to each other, right? We don't want that. We want it to be on top of each other. So let's change the direction of Flex. And for that, we want to do, let's try here. Let's do Flex Direction, I believe it's called. And then we'll try Column. Refresh that. There we go. Now it's good. So there you have it. That is looking pretty good to me. Let me take one more look at the final code. We got a div with everything. We got a nice heading. We got a button that's working. There's no JavaScript written even here. We're just handling all of that in the JavaScript file. We got an audio player that's hidden. And there's a song there that's being played when you are clicking the button. Our prank website is now finally done, and we've also cleaned up the code. And that is it. We are done with this project. Thank you so much for building this project with me. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give it a like. Also, if you have any questions or you'd like to share your creation, please leave a comment. Finally, if you like these kind of videos and you want more, please subscribe to this channel. And with that, I'd like to thank you once again for watching, and until next time.